finding a foundation that matches your skin tone in this industry is like finding a needle in a haystack. As a makeup critic and as someone who has tested and reviewed hundreds of foundations for the brown girlies for 5 years at this point, these are the best foundations for brown skin. Actually, if you're someone with neutral undertones or olive undertones, no matter what your skin type is, this is the ultimate foundation guide. If you find those foundations run really orange for you or really ashy, this is the video to watch all the way to the end, because I promise you one of these foundations, one of these 10 foundations I'm gonna mention will have your shade match. That being said, I will stop yapping so we can get into it. The first thing I wanna say, when you are shade matching your foundation, I always like to shade match to my body and neck because my face runs a little bit lighter. That's why if you look at these 4 foundations, I like the one to the far right because it matches my body and my neck the best rather than just my face. This is also a really great tip when you're in Sephora. You should always swatch the foundation on your face, on your neck, and your chest. Let it dry completely, then go outside in natural lighting and then find your shade match, because the Sephora lighting and the Ulta lighting is so deceptive. Trust me on this. This is an editing note because I forgot to mention this, but when you are foundation matching, you also need to match the foundation to your undertone. And I have an entire 15-minute video on how to find your undertone posted up here. And I really wanted to focus on the products and the formulations of my favorite foundations for neutral and olive skin tones. So, with that being said, let's continue the video. The other disclaimer I want to make is if you are someone with hyperpigmentation where you have a couple of different shades of brown on your face, you want to take the average of your hyperpigmentation. So I will tend to find, if I'm going to do a one and done foundation, I'm going to find a foundation that is between the lightest shade of my face, the deepest shade of my neck, and the lightest shade of my chest, somewhere in between all 4 of those shades. So I'm not specifically trying to match to my neck or my chest, and this is something that I recommend everyone who has brown skin and hyperpigmentation to do, because that's the best way you're gonna find a shade match with one foundation. But the best, if you really want the ultimate shade match, the best way to do it is to find a foundation that matches the center part of your face, and then another foundation that matches the perimeter of your face. So these first 5 foundations are amazing if you are someone with combination skin or oily skin, or just really like a matte blurring long wear foundation and skin tint. These are the 5 that I would recommend. First, we have the Lancome Tanti Doll 24-hour long wear matte foundation. And this is one of the best foundations that I've tried because it has a combination of really good cool undertones, which you never see in the deeper ranges, as well as foundations for warm and neutral undertones as well. It doesn't have any olive foundations, but as I can get away with shade 435C, I will say the shade names kind of don't make sense because I know I'm definitely a neutral olive undertone, but for some reason a cool undertone works really well for me for this foundation. But this wears so beautifully throughout the day, has a really beautiful natural to matte finish. So that's why I say this is amazing for my combination and oily skin gals. Because it's so full coverage, you don't want to apply too much product, which is why I like to apply it on the back of my hand first and then go in with the foundation. And something I see a lot of people talk about is this idea of oxidation, where after the foundation dries, the foundation oxidizes and gets darker. And you see a lot of people complain about that, especially with matte foundations. And after visiting a lot of labs, something I have learned is that oxidation is not really a thing. Foundations are just made up of iron oxide. Iron oxides can already oxidize because it's already oxidized, if that makes sense. What we're actually seeing is a foundation just drying down like wet paint. So when a foundation has alcohol or this ingredient called isododecane, which is a volatile ingredient, it helps the foundation dry down, which is why a lot of matte foundations tend to oxidize. But what you're really just seeing is that it just dries darker, like wet paint. So my best suggestion for that is to just buy the foundation that is one shade lighter, or even a completely different undertone, because sometimes it even changes undertones. Unfortunately, no ways around it unless you buy a foundation that is already wet, if that makes sense. So a foundation that stays wet does not dry down darker. Next, for my oily skin babes, we have the Urban Decay Face Bond Self-Setting Waterproof Foundation. This comes in 40 shades, has olive and neutral undertones, but because it's self-setting, as you can see here, it dries down a lot darker. So therefore I use shade 25 medium deep olive in the summer, and I use shade 23 in the winter, which is where we're at right now. Shade 23 is a really good neutral shade, but because it dries down, upon application, it looks a little bit light, but once you let it completely dry, it matches the rest of my body. And the beauty of this foundation is that you only need a little bit. A little bit goes a long way, and look at the before and the after. It has really full coverage, but if you use too much, I feel like it can look a little cakey, but if you use the right amount, it looks stunning and wears so beautifully over time. This is the foundation to definitely check out, especially if you have oily skin. Next one I want to talk about if we're oily and combo skin is the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm Powder. This is such an interesting formula, and this has won so many awards. It retails for $36 but comes with a lot of product, and shades 6 and 7 specifically are pretty olive. Shade 6 is a cool olive shade, and shade 7 is a warm olive shade. I'm actually between shade 6 and 7 if I wanted to just use one shade, and they did come out with like a 6.5, which was a little bit too like peachy for my skin tone. But what I like to do is I'll take shade 6 and match it to the inner part of my face, which is a lot lighter than the perimeters, and then I'll add shade 7 on the perimeters of my face to kind of bring that warmth back into my skin. And this is great when I do this because I don't need to wear any contour, and it matches my hyperpigmentation perfectly. And this formula is really interesting because it kind of like self-sets also, but it stays dewy at first. So I feel like the biggest mistake people make with this foundation is that they're like, oh, it's shiny, I'm gonna add like a ton of powder to mattify it, but then throughout the day it gets drier and drier and drier. But because of the Upsolite technology in this, which is actually like great for helping reduce the production of oil, I actually like to set it very lightly with powder. I do not go overboard with the powder because this itself is like a powder, even though it doesn't seem like it. This formula is so amazing. It goes beautifully with her Blurring Balm blush, and she literally even made a Blurring Balm highlighter. That's how good these formulas are. And it may not seem like it, but if you take my word for something, have it be this. This wears so beautifully throughout the day. If you are an oily or combination skin gal, I don't know how Miss Danessa Myricks did it, but the Upsolite technology in this is truly revolutionary for us combo skin gals. And even if you have dry skin, this still looks good. Just use less powder or no powder at all, because this is a powder. Skin like it has a really good shade range, especially for the brown and black girlies, because Miss Danessa Myricks herself has really deep skin and really understands skin of color. The next foundation that I could not recommend more, whether you have neutral, olive, or warm undertones, Mob Beauty Cream Foundation. This is one of the best foundation with the best undertones on the market, especially for brown skin, because the founder of Mob Beauty made all of the best-selling shades for MAC, and he's one of the best cosmetic chemists in the industry. You could even make your own palette on their website, so I didn't even mind buying 2 foundations. Vic was actually the reason I even learned about oxidation being a myth, and that's why he made a foundation that doesn't dry down. So you do need to set it with a little bit of powder, but because it doesn't dry down, it also doesn't dry down darker. So the foundation stays true to its color, which is really nice. And even though this is a cream foundation, once you set it with some powder, it actually lasts a long time because apparently it has plant-based polymers, which also help give you that gorgeous like silicone-y feel without actually having any silicones, because they formulate without plastic, without silicones. They're clean, they're vegan, and their packaging is even compostable. Literally, this brand has it all. It's insane how amazing this brand is, and not enough people talk about it. I don't know why. The other thing I forgot to mention is that Mob Beauty also formulates with a green pigment, which is why they have a beautiful variety of olive undertone shades of foundation, which is so rare. You rarely ever see a line just of olive foundation. So if you have neutral undertones or olive undertones, they have you covered, because the green can actually cancel out the like orangeness as well, but it helps keep the life in foundation. Finally, for my combination and oily skin babes, the one skin tint that I cannot recommend more, that I've literally used in my last like 3 YouTube videos, is the Fenty Eaze Drop Blurring Skin Tint. This is probably the best skin tint on the market for neutral undertones, olive undertones, and combination or oily skin. It's got medium coverage and just, it looks like my skin. Like shade 16 is amazing for me in the winter and I use shade 17 in the summer. This skin tint, again, does have a more natural finish and does slightly dry down. So I would go a shade lighter because it also has isododecaine, which again helps the foundation dry down with making it go a little bit deeper. But it's really long wearing and has this shade 16 is neutral olive, and just overall Fenty always kills it. This is my favorite Fenty complexion product, and they have a lot of complexion. This is the best one, trust me. This also wears really well throughout the day. It has one of my favorite textures for a skin tint, and there's not that many skin tints I really enjoy because a lot of them are really greasy, especially as someone who has combination to oily skin depending on the time of the year. But again, because it does leave a natural satiny finish, I do have to set it with powder, but it still looks really beautiful and lasts all throughout the day. Now that we've covered the best foundations for oily skin, these are the 5 foundations / skin tints that I would recommend if you have combination or dry skin. Now add combination in there again because I have combination skin where this part here gets really oily and the area around my mouth gets really dry. So some of us combination folks like foundations for dry skin as well. For my dry skin, olive skin girlies, Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. Oh my god. Armani has so many olive skin tone shades. I use shade 9, but in the summer I can get as deep as shade 11, which is also olive. It is so rare to have so many olive shades, but they have quite a few. This foundation glides on so beautifully. It is so thin and it feels so hydrating. I will say because I have combination skin, I don't get the best wear out of it, but if you are someone with really dry skin, you might get amazing wear out of this. And for me, I have to really set it to like get it to last a long time. But again, it's meant for my dry skin babes. It's literally called Perfect Glow Luminous Silk Flawless Foundation. And this is one of the best overall shade matches of my life because I like to match again to the rest of my body and chest, not just to my face, which is a couple shades lighter. But overall, this is a really good staple foundation. It's one of the best shade matches I've ever had. It has really good undertones overall. I do think they need to expand their shades in the really deep section, but I can't complain because it has a lot of olive undertone shades and just looks really gorgeous even on someone like me who has combination skin. Another amazing foundation for my dry skin, combination skin, neutral to olive babes, LYS Beauty Stick Foundation. See, the black owned brands and the brown owned brands always have our backs. This has, I believe, 30 shades and runs really deep and really fair as well. Shade TN6 is one of the best neutral olive shade matches that I have ever had. And I rarely like stick foundations because they can emphasize my texture, but even though I have combination skin, when I set it with a little bit of powder, it lasts all day. And it has, I would say, medium to almost full coverage. It just looks really natural. This is the best foundation stick on the market with the best undertones for brown skin, by far brown girl approved. And again, as someone with combination skin, I have done multiple wear tests with this product and it looks amazing even after 12 hours. Of course, you have to set it and use setting spray, but when do we also not? Like, I don't know anyone who just puts on foundation and goes out the door. Like, you kind of need powder. And again, because it's more luminous, it doesn't dry down darker, so you're not gonna get that like oxidation effect. So the shade stays true to the color. The next foundation that is amazing for dry skin and honestly even combination skin is the L'Oreal True Match Foundation. This has 45 shades, has 3 different undertones, and it even has olive undertones as well. They formulated it with the blue and the green pigment, so none of the foundations are really orange. Shade N7 is again one of the best shade matches of my life. It is an amazing neutral olive shade match again, and they have so many good undertones. Like, I even put this foundation on my fiance who's really fair and my dad who's really deep, and they both had an amazing shade match. And for $12 or something, like, you cannot go wrong with this foundation. I always recommend this foundation for beginners also because the L'Oreal really does a good job of breaking down the shades by undertones. So as long as you know the depth of your skin, hue of your skin runs either warmer or cooler or more neutral, you're gonna have a shade, which is amazing. And for under $15. I will say though, it does slightly dry a little bit deeper, not matte. It has like more of like a natural satin finish. So if you're unsure, I would go a shade lighter because it does slightly dry down a little bit darker. Because I have combination skin, it doesn't last the longest for me, but it's not also claiming to be a long wear foundation. To me, this is a really good everyday foundation when I'm like going out and about, running groceries, trying to do fun makeup looks. Like, this is the foundation I would wear. The next foundation that I could not recommend more is the Pat McGrath Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Foundation. This foundation retails for $68, which is really expensive, but I've never tried a foundation with this beautiful thin consistency. So if you're someone who hates the feel of foundation and wants something that's really thin, almost essence-like, this is a foundation that I would try. I use shade Medium 21, which is a medium deep shade with neutral olive undertones. So again, another amazing foundation with neutral undertones and olive undertones as well. It's a really good shade match to my neck and chest, which is again what I always match to, but it has 50 shades, a really good shade range, and it's also very dewy. So this is another amazing foundation for my brown skin girlies with dry skin and neutral olive undertones as well. It is also more medium coverage and it's not the most buildable, but I feel like that's what also makes it look so natural. Like, this is one of the most natural foundations that I own, which is also why I say if you are someone who hates the feeling of foundation, who hates the look of foundation, and also struggles with the undertones and has dry skin or combination skin, this is the foundation that I would definitely check out, even though it is a pretty penny. And finally, one of the best foundations for olive undertones on the market and dry skin has to be the About Face The Performer Foundation, Halsey's makeup line. This retails for $24, which is really affordable, and it has a lot of olive shades and a lot of neutral shades, but because I am neutral olive, I find that my best shade match is mixing MD1 Olive and MD1 Neutral. Just because I find the MD1 Olive shade a little bit too yellow for my skin tone, and MD1 Neutral is a little bit orange. And I think that's the struggle, because I feel like a lot of brands think olive just means yellow, but that's not what olive is. Olive is a green gray cast over your skin, which is why it's more considered an overtone. So that's why I always say I'm neutral undertone with olive overtone. But the mix of these two foundations on my skin tone looks absolutely beautiful. I don't love recommending mixing foundations, which is why I would say of the 10 foundations I'm recommending you here today, this one I would say is not my like most perfect shade match. But just like Mob Beauty, I don't mind mixing if it has olive shades, because there's so many girlies out there with olive skin that need these foundations, including myself. This is a foundation that's again very dewy. It is on the thicker side from a formula perspective, but because it's a very dewy foundation, it doesn't dry down darker, so you're not going to see that oxidation effect, which is really nice, so the color stays true. Because I have combination skin, I actually would say this wears pretty well on me, but if you have really dry skin, I think this will wear even better on you. And the other thing I like about this foundation is it gives a slight blurring effect, and it's like medium to full coverage. It's not the fullest coverage foundation I've tried here today, but it still like has covered up all of my acne scars and dark spots. That was the top 10 best foundations for brown skin with neutral or olive undertones, and I hope that was really helpful. That being said, thank you so much for watching. All of the foundations will be linked in the description below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give your girl a like, drop a comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.